Hi, welcome to U.S. History 1302. This is U.S. History since 1877. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez, and I'll be your instructor for this summer course from June 1st to July the 3rd. Okay, so this is the first summer session, and we're going to, in this particular session, go over the syllabus. So consider this video presentation as a introduction to the course. This is like the first day of class, so to speak, like syllabus day, which in itself is a kind of orientation. Okay. So this is going to be very useful. This particular video presentation is going to be very, very useful for guiding students into this class, particularly how this class is going to be structured, the method of instruction, what our classes are going to be like, for example, across this summer session, and the assignments, the exams, requirements as well, in terms of, if we're going to actually follow a textbook or not. All of that information, again, is going to be provided here in this video presentation. So it's very important. If you really want to find out how to excel, everything that you must do to excel in this course, this video presentation, of course, is going to offer a very good survey, a very good explanation as to what is necessary, what are the requirements, how to prepare for the exams, how to keep up with the lectures every day, and so on. Again, so it's a very, very essential component of class orientation, if you will. Okay, so let us go to the syllabus, which is already posted on Blackboard, by the way. I created a whole page there. It's not just that the file is there. I actually created a whole page. It's called Syllabus, which is located in the upper left menu column, and on the opening page of Blackboard. You're going to see again Syllabus in capital letters, by the way. There's a link there. It will take you to the syllabus page. So let's get there. So we are going to survey the syllabus and go step by step in pretty much explaining every component, every element of this summer course. All right, so let's start with the essentials here. Again, so this is, as I said in the beginning, the second half of U.S. history. This is History 1302 since 1877. So again, this is the second half of the U.S. history survey course. We're going to cover this course in about a month. This is the first summer session of 2021, from June the 1st to July the 3rd. By July the 3rd, the class is going to be finished. We're going to be concluding with the final exam again on July the 3rd. Once again, my name is Alfonso R. Lopez. I will be your instructor for this course, this summer session. The way to reach me, the fastest and easiest way to reach me, is through email communication. My email is stated there on the syllabus, alfonso.lopez@austincc.edu. I'm checking my email every day, several times a day, so you'll receive a response within less than 24-hour period. So for any question, any concern, any doubt, anything that you want to ask, again, it's the fastest and easiest way to reach me. Okay, so this course has no designated class meetings. This is an asynchronous format type of course. meaning that we're not going to be meeting on a regular basis, but rather the instruction is going to be posted on Blackboard for you to view on your own schedule. Of course, there's going to be designated dates for the exams and so on. Something we're going to get there in a few moments. But we're not going to be holding any meetings per se. Okay, it's asynchronous. So again, it's very convenient for the student in this case because you might have different responsibilities and things to do, etc., work and family and so on. So this provides a very good opportunity for you to actually work on this material, review the lectures on your own time. Okay, all right. So now let's start with the requirements. Let's get that out of the way first, before we actually start, discussing about what the course is going to be about and the assignments and so on. But first, we're not going to be following a textbook per se in terms of, here it is. There's a textbook, and you are supposed to be, reading the chapters as we move along in order to understand what we're covering. What we're going to be doing here instead is actually just using a text for an assignment that is due towards the end of the course. Okay, so we're not going to have a textbook to follow the lectures, but rather we're going to use a small text. It's a very thin text. It's a supplemental reading, by the way. The title is Reading American Horizons, Primary Sources for U.S. History in a Global Context by Michael Charler and several authors. Okay, it's volume 2 since 1865. This is the 4th edition, by the way, by Oxford University Press, that was printed on 2020. So again, make sure you're getting the 4th edition. The 4th edition and the ISBN number, in case you want to make sure you're getting the exact textbook for this course. The ISBN number will actually, will be the fastest way to actually retrieve that textbook from whichever bookstore. But I believe, as far as I'm concerned, that the ACC bookstore actually has, this textbook available. Okay, so this is necessary just for an assignment. I'm going to actually discuss that in just a few moments once we get to the assignments and exams, etc. But again, this is the only financial investment in terms of textbooks that you're going to need for this course. It's about $20 or so, again, and it's to just complete an assignment. This is not just this is not a textbook to follow lectures or anything like that. Okay, all right, I'll explain that in a few moments. All right, so as I explained a moment ago, this is an online asynchronous course. It's going to be delivered fully online. This course is going to be delivered fully online, but there will be no designated class meetings, in real time, in that we're not going to be, holding meetings through Blackboard, Collaborate, or anything like that, the way, synchronous classes are formatted. So it's more flexible, as I explained, because again, particularly during summertime, students have a lot of responsibilities in terms of family responsibilities, work, and so on. Again, so taking a summer class can be very difficult in terms of the timing and so on. So again, it's very flexible for you to actually follow up this material in your own time. Okay, so it very, very important to note, however, that the instruction will be delivered online, particularly and very specifically through Blackboard. So we're not going to be meeting on Blackboard, but all the instruction, all the materials are going to be posted there. The recorded video lectures, I'm going to explain that in a few minutes, how the instruction is going to be carried out. Is going to be pretty much carried out through recorded video presentations, just like this one, So you'll be able to actually see me, hear me, and you'll be able to see the outlines again that I'm actually using to explain the lectures. So I have bullet points, maps, etc., photographs. So you'll be able to see everything on the screen while you're at the same time able to hear me and see me and on the screen as well. Okay, it's like virtual, pretty much instruction. It's like you're still in the classroom, but it's all through recorded video lecture, if you will. Okay. So it's important to note that Blackboard is the main platform that we're going to be using for this course, and so it's important that you're able to navigate Blackboard to be able to find out how to actually use it, how to open the videos, how to upload the assignments and so on Blackboard, all the announcements. If there's any announcement for any reason, I will be posting the announcements through Blackboard and sending those announcements to you via email as well. Okay, so Blackboard is the virtual classroom, so to speak. Okay, the main platform for this course. So if you need tech support, well, there are specific places where you can go. I have listed in the syllabus, again, a link, for example, where you can actually contact tech support in case you have any questions regarding, Blackboard or web problems, etc. Anything that enables you to connect with the class and so on. You'll be able to solve most of those problems, troubleshooting, etc. Again, by attending, the departments within ACC that are able to help you, with those questions. Okay. Now let's look at the description of the course. It's important, to pretty much establish that what this course is going to be about. Yes, it's true. Of course, it's a U.S. history course. Is the second half is 1302, but it's important to know what we're going to be covering. In terms of U.S. history since 1877 all the way to the present. Okay, so this U.S. history survey actually starts from the end of the Civil War in Reconstruction all the way to the present. So we're not going to cover the Civil War in Reconstruction in this course. This is something that is covered in 1301, at the end of 1301. So this course is going to begin when the country is coming out of this very dramatic, episode when the Union was ruptured. In 1860, the North and the South are going to go to war, and it's called the Civil War, of course. For 5 years, from 1860 to 65. And after the end of the Civil War, when the South was defeated by the North, there was a process of reconstruction, a rebuilding, if you will, of the country that stopped around 1877. By 1877, we're going to see the reunification of the United States. The North and the South are coming together once again, and a new chapter begins. A whole new chapter begins in U.S. history after 1877. And what exactly begins after 1877? This is where, this course actually begins from. Well, what actually begins after 1877 is that the United States is now entering the modern era, is modernizing, is beginning the modern age, if you will. Again, we're going to see the building of a new country. That is to say, from the ashes of the Civil War, what we're going to see is the United States now becoming a new nation, if you will. okay, a modern industrial nation, and that's exactly what we're going to actually start looking at in this course. The United States entering the age of modernity. Okay, the age of modernity. And so most of the topics that we're going to cover in this course are going to be dealing with modernity. Okay, modernity, particularly modernity, but once we get towards the end of the course, we're also going to be dealing with the topic of globalization, because we're living in this age. It's called the modern age, but also we're living in the age of globalization as well. Okay, so we're going to cover a whole different ranges of themes and topics as we move along since 1877, but the underlying theme, as you'll notice from lecture to lecture, is that we're looking at the United States now entering this era called modernity, or the age of modernization, and also the age of globalization. Okay, that is going to be like the underlying theme across the semester, if you will. Okay, so we're going to divide this course in three main periods. Now that we understand that we're going to be looking at modernity and globalization, we're going to subdivide the course into three main stages or periods, if you will. We're going to examine each one of them quite extensively. The first one is called Building Modern America. Okay, Building Modern America from 1877 to 1900. Building Modern America. We're going to cover in this very first historical period how the United States was becoming a modern industrial nation in terms of developing a new science. For example, we're going to cover the rise of modern science, for example, okay, the scientific revolution of the 19th century that gave us things like electricity, gave us things like the telephone, the telegraph, railroads, for example, chemistry, modern medicine, and the like. So we're going to see the advent of new technologies, for example, that are going to change the life of people, not only in the United States, but people all over the world. Eventually, once those technologies reaches other nations from around the world, the lives of human beings in this world is going to change dramatically with modern science and technology. So we're going to place a strong emphasis in this very first historical period called Building Modern America to things like the scientific revolution, the technological revolution, which technologies came into being during this time. And also we're going to be paying attention to how the United States was industrializing, okay? It was developing an industrial economy, an industrial capitalist economy in the late 19th century. Okay, it was becoming an industrial nation with an industrial economy, meaning that more and more people are going to be working in industries, factories, industrial plants of different sorts, and enterprises that were also becoming more industrial-like. For example, agricultural companies, industrial type of ranches in the United States as well, mining industries, and so on. So we're going to be paying attention again how the country was also transitioning into a new industrial economy, and how people are now changing as well, the way they live, the way they work, the way they earn money, for example. All of that is going to be covered again in Building Modern America. This is the first historical period we're going to cover, and there will be three topics that are going to be talking about those issues, whether we're talking about the scientific revolution, the technological revolution, the coming of industries, and so on in the United States. All of that is going to be explained very thoroughly in the first historical period. So again, this is essential. The opening themes, the opening topics of this course are going to lay the foundation for the entire course, because you're understanding how the United States is reinventing itself, is becoming a whole new country in the late 19th century. It's really giving rise to the world that we live in today. Our civilization today is a high-tech industrial civilization. Advanced technologies, industries, and so on, that are pretty much the basis of our way of life. Most people work in industries or factories or enterprises that are tied to a high-tech society. Okay, the development of, for example, digital systems, computers. We use computers pretty much on a day-to-day basis, cell phones for communication purposes, and so on. So again, all of this world that we live in today, that we take so much for granted, was born really in the late 19th century. And this is something that I explained very thoroughly, how that world came about. Okay, so that is the first period, okay, called Building Modern America. The United States entering the modern age, that is to say. So the second historical period we're going to see is called the Crisis of Modernity, okay, the Crisis of Modernity. And the period of time that we're going to be paying attention to in the Crisis of Modernity is 1890 to 1939. Okay, so from 1890 to 1939, what happens is that as the United States was changing dramatically and it was modernizing, it was developing new sciences, new technologies are born, and so on. And there's, of course, the growth and development of industrial enterprises across the country, where most people end up actually working. What happens is that from 1890 to 1939, there was a period of crisis in the United States, okay? And the transition towards modernity, this change that was taking place in the late 19th century, caused a lot of stress on one hand to a lot of people, because a lot of people had to adjust to a whole new way of life and make sense of the kind of world that was being born before their eyes. But on the other hand, there were also crises in the world as well. Okay, for example, there were world wars. Like, for example, the First World War happened between 1914 and 1918. The world was at war. Okay, so the world was in a crisis, and the nations that were at war were the most modern nations of the world, the nations that had modernized, the nations that went through an industrial and technological revolution, that were very advanced technologically and scientifically and economically. Those were the nations that were at war. And so that's why historians call this period of time the Crisis of Modernity. That is to say, well, as we're entering a whole new age called the modern age, this transition towards this new era was not a swift one, but rather there was a series of problems. There were, of course, people that felt very confused, very displaced by the new way of life. For example, people living in now large industrial cities. People are faced with something new. They're living now in large industrial cities where there's millions of people living there, people that you don't know anything about, of course. And people are now working inside of factories most of the day, inside of buildings surrounded by machinery and so on. So it was a very strange world for a lot of people during that time. So So once again, a lot of people during this time was very, very confused, very disoriented as to what kind of world was emerging, and how they could actually make sense of it, of course. So this is something that we're going to examine as to what actually people were doing in order to cope with so much rapid, radical change that was taking place all around them. Okay, something we're going to actually analyze there again in one topic, but also we're going to also look at the crises again of the First World War. We're going to also devote an entire topic on the First World War. But there was another crisis. It was a world crisis as well that happened during that time, and that was the Great Depression, the Great Economic Depression that happened between 1929 and 1939. Okay, it was not just an economic crisis that affected the United States; it affected the entire world. Okay, the entire world was, affected by the Great Depression. So it was an economic global crisis. Okay, something that we're also going to pay attention very, very closely in this second period called the Crisis of Modernity. So in the second period, we're looking at crises. That's what the title of the second period. Whether the crises that Americans were facing as they were transitioning into a high-tech industrial world in which people are now living in cities, for example, and working in factories, or the crises of the First World War, or the crisis of capitalism, called the Great Depression. Again, the crisis of capitalism. Capitalism crashed in 1929. The capitalist system, that is to say, that governed the economies of most nations in the world, came crashing in 1929. Okay, so we're going to actually analyze those topics very fully in the second period called the Crisis of Modernity. And once we cover that, then we're going to be looking at the third period of 1302, and the third period is called the U.S. in the Age of Globalization. Okay, the U.S. in the Age of Globalization, a period of time that starts, roughly speaking, from 1939 to the present. Okay, we're now seeing the emergence of a globalized world. Okay, so we're going to be covering also three topics regarding the U.S. in the Age of Globalization, in which we're able to understand how is it that in the second half, roughly speaking, of the 20th century, we're going to see now a whole new era on the rise. It's still the modern age. Yes, it's true, but it seems that besides that we're living in the modern age, we're also seeing that on top of that, there's also another phenomenon taking place around the world, and that is that countries are becoming more and more interconnected and economically interdependent as well. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, is that there are new technologies that enable people to actually communicate with each other faster than ever. We're going to see the development not only of the telephone, but also the development of the radio, television. Eventually, we're going to see the development of satellites and digital systems, the computer age, the digital age, the World Wide Web, and so on and so forth in the second half of the 20th century. And so what that does, again, those new technologies, telecommunications, if you will, is that it actually enabled people to connect more than ever before. We're able to communicate messages, ideas, information with people that live on the other end of the world. So we're, not only sharing information and ideas very quickly, but there seems to be as well the development of something new, which is the development of a global community. The sense that we all all human beings, regardless of where we live, how separated we are in time and space in this world. Well, with those new technologies, people get the sense that the world is shrinking, is becoming smaller and smaller, and that we're not that far apart. We're able to connect with our fellow human beings no matter where we live, because we're able to actually see each other, hear each other, and communicate messages. So again, that creates a sense of community, that we are pretty much connected. In other words, as a species, we're part of the same human race, and that we inhabit the same world, and that we're coming together. That is to say, as human beings as well. Okay, and that we are forming a community. That is to say, okay, a global community. Of course, there's transportation systems like the automobile that was born in the 20th century, the airplane as well. People are able to travel faster than ever as well. So again, that creates what is called, the sense of a globalized world and a global community. That is to say, and countries are also trading more. Because of the new technologies, the economies of nations are becoming more and more integrated with the economies of nations around the world. Because of this commercial exchange, international trade is enhanced, is accelerated very rapidly with new technologies. So again, that links people as well, commercially, if you will, economically around the world as well. So that's what, again, the phenomenon of globalization is about, something that we analyze in this very last period of this course called the U.S. in the Age of Globalization. We're going to cover topics like World War II, for example, how the United States is becoming more and more an active participant in the international stage, for example, starting with World War II, but also the other topic we're going to cover that also deals with this process of globalization is the Cold War. Okay, the Cold War that started at the end of World War II in 1945 and ended in 1991, in which the United States is becoming far more active, again, an active participant in world affairs as well because of the Cold War. We're going to explain exactly what the Cold War was once we get there to that point, the Cold War. And at the very end, the last topic we're going to cover is the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Okay, there's also, of course, a relationship between the civil rights movement in the United States with events around the world. The civil rights movement of the 1960s was a movement of minorities like women, African Americans, Mexican Americans, among other groups, that were actually very active in the United States to bring about change and reform in the country in order to create a more democratic society, based on equality. Equality is the key word of the civil rights movement, equality, that all peoples, regardless of race, color, background, gender, religious beliefs, and so on, should be treated equally before the law, should have the same equal opportunities for education, for jobs, for promotions, and so on, for voting, for holding political office, and so on and so forth, equality. That's the last topic we're going to actually cover. So again, this is pretty much, roughly speaking, what we're going to be covering in this course. This first summer session, again, is U.S. history since 1877, and we're going to pretty much subdivide U.S. history 1302 into three main historical periods: building modern America, the crisis of modernity, and the U.S. in the age of globalization. Okay, I just gave you an overview of what we're going to be covering across the semester. Okay, so now having said that, there's another very important component of the course description that you should know in terms of what is my perspective, when I teach U.S. history. Okay, every professor has different perspectives. Of course, we cover the same material. Roughly speaking, is the same material. We have to cover, the main topics or themes, if you will, of U.S. history. Yes, it's true, but every instructor, every professor has different specializations, different backgrounds in terms of what we actually studied, our majors, and so on and so forth. Some professors prefer to focus on politics and economics, others on culture, and so on. So there's so many ways to teach the same course. In my case, I present history. I teach any history I teach, whether it is U.S. history or Texas history or Mexican American history, from what is called a global perspective. From a global perspective, meaning that, yes, it's true, we're going to be paying attention to the U.S. It's true. This is the main subject matter. But at the same time, what I like to do is connect what happens here at home, what is going on, for example, let's say in the late 19th century in the United States, and connect it with what's going on around the world as well. Okay, that what happens here in the United States is not necessarily something totally cut off and isolated from the rest of the world. Okay, so whatever happens in any part of the world can be connected to the outside. Okay, that are perhaps ideas, there are economic forces, or there are specific religious beliefs that are exerting influence on that part of the world that are coming from the outside, that is to say. Okay, so what particular, once again, scientific ideas, religious beliefs, or economic forces that are occurring in different parts of the world actually making an impact, let's say, in the United States. Okay, so that's what is called the global perspective. It is true, we pay attention to the US, but we're also looking at the globe as well to see how events in the United States are connected to the outside. Okay, how the outside influences the United States, but also how the United States at the same time influences nations around the world as well, particularly once we get to the 20th century, not the 19th century, but once we get to the 20th century, the United States, of course, is going to exert a certain influence, around the world as well. Okay, so that's what I mean about the global perspective. Okay, also, another thing that you should know is that when I teach history, I just don't focus on, let's just say, the field of history in order to understand the past. It's true, this is, of course, a history course, so we do have to examine the past. So we have to go back and pretty much try to understand what happened, not just what happened, but why things happen in history. But at the same time, in order to gain a fuller understanding of what actually happened in the past, it is also important, it's helpful to actually step out of the field of history to incorporate views or methods or theories from other fields outside of history. This is something I do from time to time. I complement history with, let's say, with anthropology. I borrow a lot of the methods of the field of anthropology, sociology, psychology, religion studies, cultural studies, political science, so to enrich the understanding of history, of what, why things happening in the past. Just to give you an example, for example, when we examine, for example, the Native Americans of the Great Plains, the buffalo hunters, for example, in the late 19th century, I use anthropology to understand the religion, for example, center on the worship of the buffalo, for example. Okay, there's a buffalo worshippers, if you will. So it's not just necessary or sufficient to say that the Native Americans were buffalo hunters or buffalo worshippers and pretty much move on without pretty much understanding why is it that they worship the buffalo, why they consider it important, why performing the rituals before hunting the buffalo were important to them, and what actually happened when the buffalo became extinct with the overhunting of the buffalo. Of course, the buffalo became extinct not because buffalo died off by themselves, but because there were hunters, of course, Americans, settlers, American hunters that were moving into the Great Plains and hunting buffaloes, for example. So, what happened again to the religion, to the culture of the Native Americans once they saw their gods, dying off, for example. So, anthropology helped us to actually understand that. Anthropology is very helpful in understanding human religions, for example. Why certain ceremonies are important, why they have to be carried out in certain places, and so on. Why people actually perform those ceremonies, what does it mean to them, and so on. Okay, so we go very much in depth when we study the past. In this class, we're going to go in depth in pretty much understanding, what human beings were thinking, what they were feeling. I know this is very, very, difficult to measure. There's no way we can measure that, but we can actually understand by how people behave. For example, the behavior, human behavior. For example, in ritual behavior, ceremonial behavior, we can actually take a glance as to how people actually see the world, how people think about life, how people see the universe, for example, how people provide meaning to their existence, what people think they're doing in this earth, for example. We can take a glance by their actions, by their rituals, by their ceremonies, for example, what people pray to, and so on. So anthropology is very useful. And of course, psychology is also very useful. Psychology, the field of psychology, studies the human mind, human behavior. So we also incorporate psychological theories to understand people in the past. It's important to psychoanalyze individuals, particularly leaders, for example, what people were thinking, for example, why is it that they acted the way they did? Okay, so psychology comes in and enables us to understand, for example, why certain people were cruel, for example, and let's say Adolf Hitler, in the 1930s and 40s in Germany. He was a very cruel man, of course. But the field of psychology enables us to understand, that individuals are shaped by their upbringing, by the way they were raised, by their environment. So it's important to look at, for example, how Hitler was raised, how his father treated him when he was a little boy, for example. How was the society like, his surroundings, where he actually was growing up, the kind of ideas that were popular during that time that he absorbed as he was growing up, that shaped the way he looked at other people, the way he looked at his fellow human beings, for example, or the way he looked at certain groups that he despised and persecuted, for example. Okay, so all of that is the product of an environment. He was growing up in a specific kind of environment that molded his mind as he was growing up. So psychology is very, very helpful in pretty much enabling us to understand, again, how human beings develop a point of view, a world view, a view of the world, a view of themselves, but also a view of other people, and how people behave according to those views as well. So again, it's going to be very rich in terms of, it's not just going to be historical, in which I'm just going to be listing names and dates and laws, etc., but rather we're going to be looking at the inner world of human beings, to understand how they behaved, how they saw the world around them, to understand their actions, to understand them better, that is to say. Okay, so again, this is very, very important. In this course, we're going to be paying attention, I'm sorry, very strongly to the world of ideas. Okay, so you realize that you'll pretty much in the very first lectures that you're going to watch, again, you're going to be able to actually notice that right away, that again is going to be a course that is going to be psychoanalyzing a whole lot, if you will, historical actors, people, groups, leaders, certain individuals, and so on and so forth, pretty much trying to look at the world through their eyes. We're also going to be paying attention to things like technology as well. Okay, what kind of technologies were coming about from year to year or from decade to decade, and how those technologies were changing the way people live as well. So technology is also going to be central again in this discussion, and also the environment. Okay, we're also going to be paying attention to the environment in terms of how the environment was also shaping the way people live, whether there were environmental crises or environmental changes that were taking place from time to time, and that were causing people to migrate, to move, or to experience crises in the world, the environment as well. Okay, so again, this is just in very general terms. Again, the course description, the approach is pretty much U.S. history thought from a global perspective, and it's also going to integrate methods and theories and views from other fields like psychology, anthropology, sociology, and the like, and is going to be paying attention very closely to the world of ideas, technology, and the environment. Okay, all right. So now that we have an understanding of the course description, now let's look at the mode of learning. In other words, what are classes going to be like? How are you going to be learning, in other words, this material as we move along day to day? All right, so for this course, what I've done is that I have recorded all of my lectures in a way that is very similar, not necessarily identical, but it's very, very similar to the way I teach in a face-to-face class. In that, what I've done is that I pretty much recorded myself. All the lectures I provide on a face-to-face class, what I've done is that I pretty much recorded all of my lectures. In this particular program, again, that I'm actually using here to record this class orientation, okay, is identical, pretty much. This is the identical experience you're going to actually witness as you're going to be moving from lecture to lecture, okay? So they're recorded video lectures. They're already recorded and they're already posted on Blackboard. Okay, so this is the mode of learning. This is the method of instruction. That is to say, this is how classes are going to be like. That is to say, on this online asynchronous class. Okay, so what I've done is that I recorded every lecture, I put a title on it, and there's a specific folder on Blackboard that actually tells you which particular theme or topic is there for you to actually watch the lectures off. That is to say, okay, so there's the lectures are already posted on Blackboard, and you are supposed to be watching them starting, if you can, starting now. Of course, you can wait until June the 1st. There's no problem with that. But, some students would like to pretty much go ahead and start pretty much reviewing that material and taking notes. So So there's a link on Blackboard titled Instructional Materials. Instructional Materials. There's a link there. It's titled Instructional Materials. And if you click there, you're going to see a folder that says Recorded Video Lectures. Let me try here to put it on the screen here. Okay, so you can actually identify it. Okay, I think. Yeah. Okay. So let me just show it to you. Okay. So let me just open the course. Okay. So History 1302, Section 021, 1302, Section 044, and 1302, Section 047 are pretty much the same course. Different sections. I'm teaching different sections, but it's the identical course. So let me just open one of them. Okay, is again, they're identical. It's the same material, the same instruction, the same format, if you will. Okay, so if you see here in the opening page of Blackboard, there's of course a menu column on the left. Of course, is in blue. One is the syllabus. It's at the very top. This is the one that I was actually showing you just a moment ago. But below that link, there's a link titled Instructional Materials. You click on Instructional Materials, and you're going to see two folders. One folder is titled Recorded Video Lectures. Okay, so let me click on that. Okay, Recorded Video Lectures. And all of the video lectures are posted there based on the theme or topic that we're covering, starting with, of course, the very first topic called the idea of progress in the formation of modern America. And from that point, again, we move forward from topic number 2, 3, 4, again, in that order. Okay, they're already organized in that order again. So let us just say, you say, okay, so the idea of progress in the formation of modern America, you click on it, and you're going to find 3 videos there. Okay, session 1, session 2, and session 3. They're even numbered already for you. So this is not something that is going to be difficult for you to, to be following, because all you need to be doing is, okay, so this is the very first topic of the semester. Okay, it's called the idea of progress in the formation of modern America. And there are 3 lectures. There are 3 recorded video presentations. Okay, they're numbered, session 1, session 2, and session 3. Your responsibility is to be watching them, each one of them, and be taking notes as thoroughly as possible. Okay, as thoroughly as possible, because all of the exams are going to be based on the lectures. Okay, exclusively 100%. So if you're wondering, how am I going to prepare for the exams? Am I going to be reading articles and books and no. Okay, you're not going to be reading anything. So all the material you're going to need to pass the exams and excel on the exams are on the lectures. Okay, all of the information coming from the lectures are going to be on the exam. Okay, exclusively 100%. Okay, so this is the first topic. It's called the idea of progress in the formation of modern America. And once you're through with that, then you go to topic number 2, the socioeconomic transformations of the late 19th century. And there's also going to be 3 topics on that as well. Okay, 3 topics on the socioeconomic transformations of the late 19th century. Session 1, Session 2, and Session 3. And so you go on that order. They're already organized for you. So those are the actual lectures that are already recorded for you to watch on your own time, and so you can actually take notes in your own time. Okay, make sure you watch those videos as thoroughly as possible and take notes as well, as thoroughly as possible as well. Okay, doesn't mean that you have to copy everything word for word, but you have to be paying attention to the ideas, the analysis, and be pretty much writing it down. Of course, I'm not only talking about what happened in the past, but I'm actually providing an analysis. An analysis is explaining why things happen. Okay, what is the explanation for the things that happen, okay, in the past? Okay, so again, you can go case by case, one by one, one by one, one by one. Again, and this is something that you're going to find under instructional materials. Again, those are the materials of instruction. That is to say, one folder contains all of the recorded video lectures, as I just indicated, and the other folder titled Lecture Outlines and Questions. What this folder presents to you is, again, all of the outlines I present in each one of those topics. So as I'm actually elaborating on those topics in those lectures, for example, the idea of progress, you're going to actually find in those particular files the specific bullet points, maps, key terms, etc., everything that I actually presented on the screen. You're going to find it there. Those are not notes. This is very important. Okay, don't expect that those are the actual notes, so you can just go there and copy them. No, those are just the bullet points, the main ideas I was elaborating. There's a train of thought. In other words, as I'm actually presenting a theme of history, I bring up the title, for example, called The Idea of Progress in the Formation of Modern America, and then I start elaborating on that, like the scientific revolution, the technological revolution, the idea of evolution as well by Charles Darwin. I talk about evolution as well in this first topic, and again, everything is pretty much organized. It's very structured. So I'm actually sharing my outlines with you, so you can go back and actually compare your notes and say, okay, so he talked about all of those points here. Do I have everything, and so on and so forth. Again, it's just a reference, if you will, of the things, the ideas, the key concepts that I actually elaborated in each one of those topics. Okay, so again, this is under instructional materials. You're going to find all of the recorded video lectures, but also the lecture outlines as well. There's also going to be a folder that is titled Course Assignments. Under instructional materials, again, when you keep on the bottom part, if you will, there's course assignments. Just below that link, there's course assignments, and you're going to find there the main assignment for this course. It's called the Study Questions Report. There's only one assignment, that is to say, like a mini term paper, if you will. It's a report, actually. It's called the Study Questions Report, based on that textbook I just explained to you at the very beginning of this video. It's a $20 text. It's a supplemental text. It's very thin. It's actually this one right here. Okay, I don't know if you can see it. Again, this textbook, again, to do this report. I'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to pretty much show you that there is a link titled Course Assignments, where you're going to find all of the assignments. For example, the main assignment called the Study Questions Report. There's also a folder there titled Extra Credit Assignments. And the Extra Credit Assignments is just, there are three actually extra credit assignments. Everybody's entitled, regardless of grade standing, etc. Doesn't matter. So there are three extra credit assignments in case you want to add points towards each one of the exams. You can actually complete those extra credit assignments, and add 10 points to each of the exams. There's going to be 3 exams for this course, so there's going to be also 3 extra credit assignments as well. If you're interested in those assignments, you go to that link, extra credit assignments, and it's going to actually, present to you for example, I click on extra credit assignment number 1. You're going to find 2 files, the instructions, and also the article that you need to read to answer the questions. It's very simple. The extra credit assignments is just read this article, like the Wizard of Oz. There's a certain, article that was written on the Wizard of Oz that talks about the politics in the United States, pretty much. The Wizard of Oz is about politics, 100%. Okay, so this article explained how is it that the Wizard of Oz was talking about American politics in the 1890s. And you answer the questions. If you answer the questions successfully, you can actually add up to 10 points to exam number 1. And so you do the same thing with extra credit assignment number 2. If you want to add 10 points to the second exam, you do extra credit assignment number 2, or the final exam, again, extra credit assignment number 3. Okay, so there's also the exams. The exams are also posted here. All of the instructions for the first, second, and final exams are also found on this particular link called course assignments as well. Okay, so under course assignments, you'll find everything that is required in this course. For example, the study questions report, the exams, the extra credits, and so on. Okay, and also there is a section I created here on the left menu column called Submit Work that says first exam, second exam, final exam, study questions report, extra credits, where you actually are going to upload, again, your work and exams there. So the first exam is going to be uploaded there, the second, the final, the study questions report, and the extra credits are uploaded there as well. Okay, so it's very easy to navigate, because for example, if you say, okay, so what are classes are going to be like? What are the classes? Well, instructional materials. You click on instructional materials, and then you're going to find the recorded video lectures. So those are the lectures that you're supposed to be watching pretty much across the session. They're there, organized for you already thematically by themes. There are 9 topics that we're going to cover, and each topic contains 3 videos. So this is something that you're going to be actually doing on your own, of course. Now, let me return to the syllabus so we can continue with, let us just look at the syllabus here, okay? So again, I clicked on syllabus on the upper link, and let's continue with the syllabus, talking about the recorded video lectures. So it's very important that you keep up with those lectures, you review the material, you take notes, because the 3 exams are going to be based on this material. It's very important to note that during the exams, all the questions are going to be based on the material I presented on those video recordings. So the answers to those exam questions must come from the ideas, from the analysis, from the key concepts I presented. Okay, so it's very important that you understand that, very early on, because some students bring in material from outside sources. They go to the web page, for example, to answer those questions, and their exams get disqualified. It's very important. So again, the exams are not going to accept material gathered from other sources, okay, from books, from encyclopedias, from web pages, from articles, and so on and so forth. So if I start reading, in your answers, material that I did not present, and it seems that you use most of the outside sources to answer those questions, your exam is going to be disqualified. So it's very important. Again, so if you want to pass this class, just go to the lectures and take notes as thoroughly as possible. Okay. All right. So another thing, and this is something that you are perhaps already aware, from what I've been actually indicating moments ago, is that, as I mentioned, the historical material in U.S. History 1302 is going to be presented in three main periods: building modern America, the crisis of modernity, and the U.S. in the age of globalization. Something we already, of course, explained moments ago. But within each one of those historical periods, there's going to be three main topics or themes. Okay, so what that means is that my lectures are already organized based on themes, based on certain topics. So it's not like you're just going to be listening to lectures that are presented randomly year by year and so on and so forth. But rather what I do is that I take a specific theme, let's say the idea of progress, okay, in the formation of modern America. I talk about the coming of modern science, technology, the idea of evolution, for example. And I talk about that, for three videos, three video sessions. All I do is just talk about that topic. All of that. Again, nothing else. Once I'm through with that, then I start a whole new topic called the Socioeconomic transformations of the late 19th century in the United States. Okay? Talk about the rise of new industries, enterprises, ranches, agricultural companies, and so on, mining industries. In that topic, okay? So that's what I just talk about that as well. So it's thematic. The lectures are organized around themes, and there's going to be 9 themes that are going to be covered across the semester, and 3 themes are going to be presented in each of the 3 main historical periods that I just mentioned. Building modern America will cover 3 themes. Then we're going to have the first exam. Then we move into the second period, the crisis of modernity, and we talk about 3 more themes that talk about the crisis of modernity, popular reform movements, World War I, and the Great Depression. Once we do that, then we have the second exam. And then we move into the final third historical period, the U.S. and the Age of Globalization. We cover 3 more themes: World War II, the Cold War, and the Civil Rights Movement. And after we do that, we have our final, okay, based on the last 3 themes. So the final is not going to be comprehensive, but it's going to be based exclusively, again, on the last 3 topics, again, that we covered in the semester. Okay, so once again, so it's very important that you understand that the lectures are organized thematically. They're themes, in other words. So it's almost like you're, going back to the outline of the lectures. It's almost like you're reading the table of contents of a book, so to speak. There's part 1, part 2, part 3, and each of the main parts have 3 chapters, so to speak. Okay, something like that. Okay, so it's very easy to identify. Once you go to Blackboard, Instructional Materials, Recorded Video Lecture, that folder, you're going to see the 9 topics listed there. Okay, I just showed you that a moment ago. Okay, they're all listed there. Now, each topic has 3 videos, each one of them. Okay, at any rate, so there will be 3 exams for this course. Each exam is going to be worth 25% of the final grade. Now, once again, all of the exams are going to be based on the lectures, okay? And each exam is going to be is going to consist of two fundamental parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 entails answering the questions on just one topic, okay? So the questions are not gathered from all of the 3 topics that we cover for each part, okay? Let us say we start with part 1, so you cover the first, second, and third topics there. You watch the lectures, but for the exam, you're going to answer the questions of just one topic. And I'm just giving you pretty much, in advance, what the topic is going to be. And the topic is going to be the second topic. The second topic of the semester is going to be the socioeconomic transformations of the late 19th century. So for sure, you must watch the second topic very thoroughly, extremely, very thoroughly, because in the first exam, the questions in part 1, are going to come from the second topic, okay, the socioeconomic transformations of the late 19th century. They're going to come from that topic. So for sure, you have to see the second topic very thoroughly, take notes very thoroughly, and try to answer, once the exam comes again, answer the questions on the second topic. And there's also going to be a part 2. Every exam is going to have part 1 and part 2, and part 2 is going to be key terms. A series of key terms in which you're going to be given a specific key term extracted from another topic. And in this case, regarding the first exam, is going to be the first topic. So for sure, again, the first and second topics are going to be for sure, something that you're going to have to master in terms of, understanding the material, taking notes, watching all of those video presentations, and so on. Because part 1 and part 2 are going to be, based on topic number 1 and topic number 2. Okay. The third topic is going to be there for extra credit. So if you want extra points, there's going to be a question regarding the third topic. Okay. Something I will explain in a separate video. So what I'm going to do is actually create a review session for each exam. I'm going to actually record an orientation video, if you will, to guide you as to how to actually fulfill all of the requirements for each of the exams. It's going to be an orientation for exam number 1, an orientation video for the second exam, and one for the final. Okay, there will be 3 separate videos. I will post them on due time. Again, in due time. Okay, so again, part 1 on each exam is going to be, roughly speaking, 70 or 80 points. And part 2, the key term section, is going to be worth anywhere between 20 to 30 points. Okay, so in everything that you answer on the exams has to be based on the video lectures, once again. And the exams are going to be, typed. This is something that you're going to do on your own at home. You're going to type it, double space, page numbers, and so on and so forth. Save everything on a Word doc or PDF and upload it by the due date. Okay, so this is not going to be a timed, exam in which you're going to be given a specific, day and time to actually do it and upload it, and so on. But rather, this is something that you're doing on your own, if you will. Okay. At home. It's a take home, in other words. It's a take home, exam, if you will. Okay. All right. So I'll be posting those review sessions in due time. So it will guide you as to how to prepare and how to actually answer, the questions and the key terms, and Excel pretty much. I will explain everything. Okay. So as I mentioned, there's going to be also extra credit assignments. You already saw the video, the folder. Under course assignments, there's a folder titled Extra Credit Assignments. There are 3. They're optional. They're not mandatory. So everybody's entitled to do them. And each extra credit assignment is worth 10 points. In those points, you can use them to each of the exams. You can boost your exams grades by an entire letter grade, if you will. Okay. Now, last but not least, there's also, of course, the course assignment, the main course assignment, aside from the exams. That is to say, there's going to be a main course assignment, which is a study questions report, okay, that is due at the end of the summer session, almost towards the end, okay, almost towards the end. Is pretty much due at the end of June, okay, before the term is over. And is based on this particular text. Once again, this is Reading American Horizons, U.S. Primary Sources for U.S. History in a Global Context. It's new, is $20. You can get it used for much less. Okay, so what this study questions report is all about is I have selected 10 documents. Again, this is not a book to read. This is just a collection of documents written by historical actors, people that made history, again, in the United States. Something that they wrote, letters or memoirs, statements, etc. Again, and, they're very short reads. Each document is anywhere between 1 to 3 pages in length. So I selected 10 of them for you to read and answer questions on them. Okay, where are the instructions? The instructions are on the syllabus. On the syllabus, you're going to find all the instructions. Okay, the instructions are here on the syllabus. Okay, it tells you that you have to type them, double space, check for typos, and if you're going to be citing, information, use whatever method. There are very different citation methods you can use, MLA, Chicago style. There's many in academia, in college and university. There's many methods. Use whichever method you feel most comfortable with. But whenever you cite something directly from the book, pretty much quote it appropriately. That is to say, at the end, save everything in one file. Has to be Word doc or PDF and uploaded again on the Submit Word section on Blackboard. This is due June the 30th, okay? Wednesday, June the 30th, the end of June, pretty much, okay? It's 25% of your final grade. It's 25% of your final grade. So it's very important, again, that that you pay attention to this assignment. There are students that excel on the exams, but for some reason they just don't do the study questions report. That's 25 points off of your final grade. So again, it brings down your grade to a 70, 75 max. Okay, so please, make sure to complete this assignment. The guidelines are all there. It tells you which document it is. It tells you the page number. It tells you the title of the document, and it gives you the questions one by one. Okay, chapter 16.1, page 138. It tells you the document written by Frank Mayer, the Buffalo Harvest, chapter number 2, and so on and so forth. One by one until you reach the 10th document. So again, it's a very simple assignment. You only need one source, and the guidelines are very straightforward. There's no way you can be lost again in this assignment. Okay, it's 25% of your final grade. There are 10 documents, very short reads. Documents can range anywhere between 1 to 3 pages in length. So it's not like, oh my God, I have to read the entire book. 1 to 3 pages per document again. So again, it's very simple, assignment, if you will. Okay. So the grading distribution is as follows. First exam 25%, second exam 25%, final exam 25%, and the study questions report 25%. So 4 main grades. You can also factor in the extra credit assignments. Okay, there are 3 extra credit opportunities already. I explained them a moment ago. But also keep in mind that I also take other factors into account, like effort, for example. Okay, improvement and progress. So if I see that across the term you were improving from the first exam to the second to the final, I see that you were improving the grade. Let's say the first exam you got an 80, but then the second exam you got a 90, and then the final you got a 95. Let it just say, I see great effort there, that you're bettering yourself, you're improving, and let it just say that in the end you ended up with an 89 overall grade average, or 88.75 or thereabouts, and you submitted 1 extra credit assignment. So I see that you really put a lot of effort. Then you can be given the A, that is to say. Okay, if you're just a 1 point short, maybe 1.25, but at the same time I saw great effort, for you to improve, to reach to that point, I just give you that extra push, if you will. Okay, so that's very important. Again, it's not all that mechanical. That is to say, I take other factors into account when I'm actually calculating the final grade. Okay, there are other things to factor in as well. Okay, so the last portion of the syllabus has technical information like important calendar dates, for example. It presents the tentative course schedule and assignments day by day, what you're supposed to be doing. In other words, day 1, okay, so you're supposed to be going through the syllabus, this video, but also already be watching the first sessions of the first topic, the idea of progress. And day 2 and 3, you're supposed to be already looking into the second and third sessions, if you will, of the idea of progress. By day 4 and 5, you're supposed to be already moving into the second topic of the semester, the socioeconomic transformations of the late 19th century, so on, so on, so on. Again, pretty much it provides a blueprint as to what you're supposed to be doing on the specific day, if you will, of the term, for you not to fall behind, not to get to the point where, man, we're gonna submit the first exam on the 10th of June and I haven't done anything. So you're gonna have a lot of videos to watch. So it is better to be doing that on a day-to-day basis, to be watching those videos, that is to say, those lectures. Okay, so it tells you on June the 10th, we're going to have, you must submit the first exam on Blackboard on June the 10th, on Thursday. And then we go into the Crisis of Modernity. Day by day, it tells you which videos you're supposed to be watching. And then it tells you that on June 21st, on Monday, you're supposed to submit the second exam, okay, on Blackboard. And then we move into the third part of the semester, the US and the Age of Globalization. And then it tells you day by day which videos to be watching as well, and when the study questions report is due, and then when the final exam is going to be due as well, pretty much July the 2nd, okay, Friday, July the 2nd. Again, this is where the final exam is due, okay? So the rest of the pages of the syllabus is just policies and regulations. I'm not going to actually, go over them, but this is very important, very useful information for students in terms of campus operations, things about, academic integrity, communication policies, etc., rules and regulations, if you will, again, of the college. Course drops, when is the last day to drop the course, incompletes, you name it. Again, students' rights and responsibilities, student complaints, and so on. So student support services, student accessibility services as well, academic support, library services, everything you need to know, in case you need information, you need assistance, support, you name it. Everything is there. Again, numbers, links, specific names, everything for you to actually receive proper information and guidance and help if you ever need it. Okay, so this is pretty much what the course is going to be about. Again, is U.S. History 1302, U.S. History since 1877. My name, once again, is Dr. Alfonso R. Lopez. I will be your instructor for this course this semester. If you ever need assistance, guidance, you want to ask me a question about an assignment, about the exam, and so on, again, the fastest, easiest way to reach me is via email. Again, alfonso.lopez@austincc.edu, and I'll respond immediately, again, to your questions. Okay, and once again, for any question regarding the class and so on, again, that you require help and assistance, please let me know, and I'll provide valuable guidance and assistance, very quickly by responding through email. Okay, so once again, welcome to History 1302, U.S. History since 1877. I'll be your instructor this semester. This is all I have for you, and please, again, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, I'll be sending an email announcement right away that this video is already available for you to watch, so you can start already becoming acquainted, with this course. Okay, thank you.